My name is Yusuf Al Hadi, and I was not supposed to tell you this. I made a vow in the dark that if I survived what I saw, if my breath returned to my body, I would speak it no matter the cost. I have tried to stay silent. I have tried to bury it beneath routine, beneath prayer, beneath fear. But it burns. It burns in my chest when the world grows quiet. It burns in my thoughts when I try to forget. Because during Ramadan in the year 2026, when my body was weak from fasting and my soul was stretched between hunger and devotion, I saw him. Not in a dream, not in imagination, not as a symbol. I saw him. And even now I feel the weight of that moment pressing against my ribs as if heaven itself is asking me, will you keep your vow? I am afraid. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of being rejected. Afraid of what this truth demands. Because what he revealed to me does not leave a man unchanged. It asks for everything. And still, the whisper returns. Soft, unrelenting, eternal. Keep speaking. I hear it when I close my eyes. I hear it when I try to sleep. I hear it now as I speak to you. Keep speaking, so I will. Not because I am brave, but because I was chosen to remember. Because some truths do not belong to silence. And if I remain quiet now, then the night I was shown will have been wasted. So listen carefully. Not with your ears, but with whatever in you still trembles at the sound of truth. Because this is not just my confession. It is a warning. It is a calling. It is a door. And once it opens, you will not be able to close it again. Before that night, my life was simple. Sacred in the way ordinary things can be sacred if you never question them too deeply. Ramadan had always come like a familiar wind. Gentle, disciplined, expected. I would wake before dawn in that quiet hour where the world still feels unfinished. The air would be cool, almost tender. The house, dim shadows resting softly against the walls. There is a kind of holiness in hunger, a stillness that grows in the body when it is denied. A sharpening of the soul. I lived inside that rhythm. The early meal before sunrise, the whispered prayers, the slow passing of the day as the sun stretched across the sky like a test of patience. By afternoon, the thirst would settle into my throat dry, persistent like a reminder that I was alive. And yet there was peace in it, or at least I thought there was. At sunset, everything softened again. The table filled with food, the quiet gratitude before the first sip of water, the way relief felt almost like mercy. My family would gather, voices low, movements gentle, as if we all understood, without saying it, that we were participating in something ancient, something holy, and I believed, I truly believed, not with certainty, but with sincerity. I prayed, I bowed, I recited the words I had been taught, letting them pass through my lips like inherited breath. But somewhere beneath the surface of all that devotion, there was a question. Small at first, almost invisible, but alive. It would come to me in the quiet moments after prayer, when the room emptied, when the world stopped asking things of me. A question without shape but full of weight. God, who are you really? I never said it out loud. Some questions feel dangerous even when they are born from longing. So I buried it. I wrapped it in routine, in repetition, in obedience. But questions do not die easily. They wait. And as the days of Ramadan passed, something began to shift. Not around me, but within me. The silence between prayers grew heavier. Not empty, but full. Like a presence I could not see, but could no longer ignore. At night, when I lay in bed, I would feel it most clearly. That awareness, that watching, not threatening, not harsh, but intentional, as if something beyond my understanding was drawing closer, step by step, breath by breath. I would stare into the darkness and feel my own thoughts becoming louder, clearer, and then one night, not spoken, not heard, with ears but undeniable, a whisper formed within me, not mine yet somehow known. You were brought here to remember. I froze, my body still, but my soul awake in a way I had never known before. I tried to dismiss it, to call it imagination, to bury it beneath logic, to return to the comfort of what I had always believed. But something had already begun, something irreversible. Because once a whisper carries truth, it does not fade. It echoes, softly, patiently waiting. And every night after that, as I drifted between waking and sleep, I felt it again. Closer, clearer, and beneath it all, another voice began to rise. Not loud, not demanding, but steady. Like a command wrapped in mercy. Keep speaking. I didn't understand it yet. I didn't know what I was being prepared for. But deep within me, something had already started to awaken. And once something awakens in the soul, it does not go back to sleep. It waits for the moment it is called into the light. And I did not know it then, but that moment was already coming for me. It comes on the 17th night of Ramadan. I remember it with a clarity that does not fade, as if time itself marked it, set it apart as if heaven circled that night long before I arrived in it. The air feels different, not colder, not warmer, but aware, like the world is holding its breath. I have been fasting longer than usual, praying longer than I ever have, lingering in each movement, as if something in me refuses to leave the presence of God. But this time, it is not routine. It is not obligation. It is hunger of a different kind, a hunger that food cannot answer, a question that will not stay buried. I kneel. My forehead touches the ground, and for the first time, I do not repeat what I have memorized. I speak from somewhere deeper, raw, unformed, dangerously honest. God, if you are real in a way I have not yet known, show me. Even if it costs me everything, even if I'm not ready, even if I never go back to who I was before. The words frighten me as they leave me, because something in me knows they have been heard. Silence follows, but it is not empty. It is waiting. I stay there unmoving, my forehead still pressed against the ground, as if lifting it would break whatever is forming in the unseen. Then something shifts, not outside, inside. A pressure begins in my chest, not pain, but weight, like my heart has suddenly become too large for my body. My breath slows. The room around me begins to soften. Edges blur, sounds stretch thin, distant. Time begins to loosen its grip. The ticking of the clock becomes slow, unnatural, as if each second is being pulled apart, examined, then released. I lift my head, but the movement feels delayed, as if my body is no longer keeping pace with my awareness. And then I feel it. A pulling, upward, gentle but undeniable. My hands, my arms, my body, they feel heavy, rooted, distant. But I am becoming light. Confusion rises first. Sharp, sudden. What is happening to me? Am I losing consciousness? Am I dying? The thought strikes like cold water, and then just as quickly, it dissolves. Because something else arrives, a calm I have never known. Not the calm of comfort, but the calm of surrender. The kind that does not ask questions because it already understands. My fear begins to fall away, layer by layer, like something being gently removed from my soul. And then, I'm no longer inside my body. There is no moment of separation I can explain. No tearing, no break. Just a realization. I'm here, and my body is there. Still, quiet, small. But I do not feel loss. I do not feel panic. I feel free, weightless, aware in a way that is sharper than sight, deeper than thought. The room I once knew fades, not instantly, but like a memory being pulled away by light. And in its place, something else begins to open. Not a place, not yet, but a passage, a movement, a calling. And deep within me, the whisper returns. Stronger now, closer, not asking, not suggesting, but declaring. You were brought here to remember. My awareness leans toward it as if drawn by something older than my own will. And beneath it, like a pulse beneath the surface of everything, the refrain returns, steady, unyielding, sacred. Keep speaking. I do not understand it. I do not resist it. Because in this moment, resistance no longer exists. There is only movement, only surrender, only the quiet, overwhelming knowing that I have crossed something invisible and there is no turning back. The world I knew is already behind me, and what waits ahead is no longer hidden. And then the passage opens, not like a door, not like anything the world has taught me to recognize. It unfolds, as if reality itself is parting. I am no longer moving through space. Space is moving through me. Light begins to gather. Not a single beam, not a distant glow, but a living presence. It surrounds me without touching. It fills me without entering. It is not something I see. It is something I feel, alive, gentle, knowing. The darkness that once held me dissolves completely, and in its place there is a vastness that cannot be measured. I am carried forward, not by force, but by invitation, as if something ahead is calling me not with sound, but with recognition. The passage becomes clearer now, a current of light flowing endlessly, stretching beyond anything I could ever imagine. It is not a tunnel in the way the world would describe it, but it curves, it breathes, it moves, and within it there is music, not heard with ears, but known. Each movement of light sings, each pulse of brightness carries meaning, and somehow I understand it, not with language, but with being. I am not afraid. That realization comes to me slowly, almost gently, because I should be. I have left everything I have ever known. I have crossed something I cannot return through. And yet, there is no fear, only peace. A peace so deep it feels ancient, like something I have always belonged to, but somehow forgotten. And then I become aware. I am not alone. At first, it is only a presence, subtle, like warmth behind me, beside me, around me. Then it becomes clearer. There are others, not in bodies, not in forms I can fully describe, but they are there, conscious, aware, watching but not with judgment, existing but not separate. Some feel familiar, as if I have known them long before I was born. Others feel vast, ancient, like witnesses to something far greater than my understanding. But none of them frighten me, because everything here is held together by love. Not the kind of love I learned in the world. Not fragile, not conditional, not fleeting. This love is steady, unshaken. It does not demand. It does not withdraw. It simply is. And as it surrounds me, something within me begins to open. Walls I did not know I carried begin to fall. Every hidden fear, every quiet shame, every unanswered question. They rise for a moment and then they dissolve. Not erased, but understood. Fully, completely. I'm seen. Not partially, not in fragments, but entirely. And in that seeing, I am still loved. The weight of that realization. It almost breaks me. But there is no breaking here. Only becoming. Only clarity. The further I move, the brighter it becomes. But the light does not blind. It reveals. Layer after layer, truth unfolding without resistance. And beneath it all, like a thread woven through eternity, the whisper returns. Closer now. Clearer. No longer distant, no longer faint, but present. living, breathing within me. He called my name in the dark. The words do not echo, they settle. They root themselves in my soul. And I understand this place, this movement, this overwhelming peace. It is not the end, it is the beginning. A beginning I did not choose, but was chosen for. And as I am carried deeper into the light, I feel it. Something ahead, stronger, greater, a presence unlike anything else. Not just light, not just peace, but someone. And everything within me falls silent. Because I know, before I even see him, I know. I'm about to stand before the truth, and nothing in me will remain hidden. And then I see him, not all at once. At first, it is only a presence within the light, a center, a stillness, something that does not move, yet everything moves around it. The light does not dim for him, it gathers, as if all brightness knows where it belongs. And as I am drawn closer, something within me begins to tremble. Not from fear, from recognition, deep, immediate, unlearned. No one tells me who he is. No voice announces him. No name is spoken aloud. And yet I know. The knowing does not come from memory. It comes from truth. A truth older than my life, older than my questions, older than everything I thought I understood about God. My being responds before my thoughts can form. I lower without deciding to. I bow without instruction, because something in me understands. I am standing before holiness. Not an idea, not a concept, not something shaped by human explanation, but a living presence that sees me completely. And then he looks at me. There are no words for that moment, because his gaze is not like the gaze of a man. It does not scan. It does not analyze it, does not search for flaws. It reveals. In an instant, everything in my life opens. Not in sequence, not in memory, but all at once. Every moment I have ever lived, every hidden thought, every silent question I was too afraid to ask. It is all there, exposed, not to shame me, but to be known. I feel it all again. The prayers I whispered without certainty, the nights I questioned in silence, the small acts of kindness. I forgot the moments I turned away, when I should have turned toward. Nothing is missing. Nothing is hidden. And still, there is no condemnation. No anger, no rejection, only understanding. A depth of understanding that breaks something open inside me. Because I realize I have never been seen like this. Not by people. Not even by myself. But here, in this moment, I am fully known. And fully loved. The weight of that love, it is unbearable. And yet, it does not crush me. It lifts me. It strips away every defense, every excuse, every illusion I carried. And I cannot stand anymore. I fall, not out of fear, but because I cannot remain upright in the presence of something so pure, something so true. And as I surrender, as everything in me becomes still, he speaks. Not with a voice that travels through air, but with a knowing that enters directly into my soul. Clear, gentle, unmistakable. You were brought here for a reason. The words do not echo. They settle. They anchor themselves within me as if they have always been waiting to be heard. And I understand. This is not random. This is not an accident. This is not imagination. I have been brought. Chosen not for greatness, not for status, but for obedience, for remembrance, for truth. And in his presence, I feel something I have never felt before. Not just peace, not just love, but belonging. As if everything I have ever searched, for everything I have ever tried to understand about God is standing right in front of me. Not distant, not unreachable, but near, closer than breath, and yet beyond everything I can contain. I do not ask questions. I cannot, because in this moment, questions feel small. What matters is not what I want to know, but what he is about to reveal. And as I remain there, open, surrendered, undone, the light around him begins to shift, not fading, not changing, but deepening, as if what I have seen so far was only the beginning. And beneath everything, like a quiet fire burning through my soul, the refrain returns, steady, sacred, unavoidable. He called my name in the dark, and now I am no longer in the dark. Now I am standing in truth, and it is about to change everything. And as I remain before him, open, undone, without defense, the light begins to reveal more, not outwardly, but inwardly. It is as if my understanding is being stretched, widened beyond what I thought truth could be. I begin to see not images alone, but meaning. Not stories, but reality beneath them. Humanity unfolds before me, not as nations, not as labels, not as religions, but as hearts. Searching, wandering, reaching in different directions, calling out to the same God, yet divided by the names they have learned to trust. I see devotion. I see sincerity. I see people bowing, praying, singing, crying out, and yet there is distance. Not because God has moved away, but because something has been covered. Something has been layered over time, over generations, until truth became harder to recognize. And in that moment, I understand something that shakes me. Truth is not owned. It is not contained by walls or confined to a single language or held captive by identity. It lives, it breathes, and it calls. And then without sound, yet clearer than anything I have ever heard, he reveals it. This isn't just about religion. It's about restoration. The words settle into me like fire, not destroying, but purifying. I see it now. The divisions, the arguments, the fear of being wrong, the fear of losing what has always been known, the way people cling to form but forget the heart. And I feel sorrow, deep, aching sorrow, because I see how many are close, so close yet unable to recognize what they are reaching for. Not because they are rejected, but because the noise has grown louder than the truth. And then the vision shifts. I see a different kind of people, not defined by where they come from, not bound by what they were taught alone, but marked by something deeper. Hunger, not for power, not for control, but for truth. They are scattered across nations, across traditions, across lives that look ordinary from the outside. And yet they are listening. And I hear it again. They were chosen. Not chosen to stand above others, but chosen to hear, to respond, to remember. And I understand. This choosing is not about status. It is about surrender, about those who will let go even when it costs them everything they thought they were. And then I am shown something heavier, something harder, a covering, not a single act, not a single moment, but a slow drifting, where truth became wrapped in layers of fear, control, misunderstanding, not always intentional, not always malicious, but real and powerful. And I feel it. The weight of generations trying to hold on to God while slowly losing sight of his voice. And yet, even here, there is no condemnation, only longing, a longing that reaches across time, calling people back, not to systems, but to him, to truth, to relationship, to the place where the soul recognizes its source. And then the light deepens again. And I feel it, a warning, not spoken with anger, but carried with urgency. The world cannot continue as it is, not because it is hated, but because it is asleep. And what is asleep must be awakened, even if the awakening feels like shaking. And then I understand. The shaking is not destruction. It is exposure. It is the breaking of illusions, the falling away of what cannot hold truth, so that what is real can remain. and I feel it in my chest. This weight, this knowing that what is coming will demand a choice. Not between people, not between identities, but between truth and everything that hides it. And again, like a fire that refuses to go out, the refrain rises within me. He called my name in the dark, and now I see he is still calling, not just to me, to everyone, across every boundary, every belief, every life, calling them out of noise, out of fear, out of separation, and into something deeper, something eternal. And I am left there in his presence, holding this revelation, knowing that it is not mine to keep, knowing that it must be spoken, no matter the cost, because this is not just a message. It is a return to what was always true before it was forgotten. And just when the weight of it feels too much to carry, the vision changes. Not away from truth, but deeper into it. What I see next is not destruction. It is awakening. It begins quietly. So quietly, most would miss it. A man sits alone in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, his chest heavy with a question he cannot ignore. A woman pauses in the middle of her routine, as if something unseen has touched her thoughts, calling her to look again, to look deeper. A child staring out of a window, feeling something stir inside them, something they do not yet have words for. Across the world, in different places, different lives, different beliefs, the same thing begins to happen. A stirring, a remembering, and I understand. This is how it begins. Not with noise, not with force, but with awakening, one soul at a time. I see fear begin to loosen its grip. Not all at once, but slowly, like chains that have forgotten how to hold. People who once stayed silent begin to question. People who once followed blindly begin to seek, and those who seek begin to find. Not answers given to them, but truth rising within them. And as that truth rises, something changes. Fear becomes clarity. Clarity becomes courage, and courage becomes movement. I see people stepping out of what they have always known, not in rebellion, but in obedience to something deeper, something real, something alive. And as they move, they begin to recognize each other, not by name, not by background, but by spirit. A quiet recognition, a knowing without introduction, that they are part of the same awakening, that they have heard the same call. And again, I feel it echo through everything. They were chosen, not to divide, but to unite, not to dominate, but to guide, not as rulers, but as witnesses. Witnesses to truth, witnesses to love, witnesses to what happens when a soul finally responds to what it has always known. And I see it spread, not like chaos, but like light, crossing borders, crossing languages, crossing every line humanity has ever drawn. Because truth does not stop at boundaries, it flows, and those who awaken, they become part of that flow. Carriers of something they cannot fully explain, but cannot deny. And I realize this is the shift, not a collapse of the world, but a transformation of it from within. A world where people begin to live from truth instead of fear, from love instead of control, from connection instead of separation. And it does not happen all at once. It unfolds like dawn, slow, certain, unstoppable. And in the center of it all, I feel his presence again, not distant, not removed, but moving through it, calling, guiding, awakening. And within me, the refrains return stronger now, like a rhythm I cannot escape. Keep speaking, because this awakening needs a voice, because silence cannot carry what truth demands. And then you are brought here to remember, not just for myself, but for others. For those who feel it but cannot name it, yet for those who are standing at the edge of awakening, unsure whether to step forward. And I understand now. This vision is not just something I was shown. It is something I am part of, something I have been drawn into. And so are you. If you are hearing this, if something inside you is stirring even now, then you are not outside of this. You are within it. Because awakening does not begin when the world changes. It begins when you do. And as the vision continues to unfold, as light continues to rise across the unseen, I feel it again clearer than ever before, closer than breath. He called my name in the dark, and now he is calling others, one by one, across the earth, into truth, into remembrance, into something that cannot be stopped, because it was never created by man. It was always there, waiting for the moment. We would finally wake up, and then without warning, I am pulled back. Not gently this time, not like the way I was carried into the light. This is different, sudden, sharp, like being drawn out of something eternal and forced back into something small, dense, limited. I feel it before I understand it. Wait. My chest tightens. My breath returns like a struggle, like I have forgotten how to breathe and must learn again in an instant. My body. It feels foreign, heavy, like a garment that no longer fits but cannot be removed. My eyes open and I am back. The same room, the same walls, the same world, but nothing is the same. The air feels thick, almost resistant. The silence is no longer full. It is empty. And I feel it immediately, the loss. Not of him, but of that closeness, that clarity, that overwhelming presence of truth that left no room for confusion. Here everything feels distant again, muted, and I realize I have returned, but I have not come back unchanged. I sit there for a long time. Or maybe it is only minutes. Time feels different now, less reliable, less real. I try to move, and even that feels unfamiliar. Like I am relearning how to exist in a body that no longer feels like home. And inside me, everything is still burning. Not pain, but knowing. A knowing that refuses to quiet itself. A knowing that demands to be spoken. And yet, fear returns with it. Not the fear I felt before. This is deeper, heavier, because now I understand what it means to speak. To say what I have seen is to step outside of everything I have ever known. Everything I have ever been part of. Everything that once felt safe. I try to hold it in. I try to stay silent. I tell myself, maybe it was too much. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it is better not to say anything at all. But truth does not stay buried. It presses. It rises. It demands breath. I begin to speak carefully, slowly to those around me. Not everything at first, only fragments. Pieces. Enough to test the weight of their response, and what I receive, it is not what I hoped for. Some look at me with confusion as if I have crossed into something they cannot follow. Some dismiss it, quickly reducing it to imagination, to exhaustion, to something explainable. Others grow quiet, not because they understand, but because they are uncomfortable. And I feel it, the separation. Not just between me and them, but between what I have seen and what the world is willing to accept. And for a moment, I consider silence again. I consider returning to what is easy, to what is familiar, to what does not cost me everything. But then the whisper returns. Stronger now. Not distant, not gentle, but steady, unmovable. Keep speaking. I close my eyes and I feel it again. That presence, not as it was before, but enough. Enough to remind me. This was real. This is real. And I remember the vow I made. Not with words spoken aloud, but with everything in me that surrendered in that place of light. If I return, I will speak. even if my voice trembles, even if I am misunderstood, even if I stand alone, because this truth, it was not given to me to protect my comfort. It was given to me to carry, and carrying it comes with a cost I feel every day now, in the way I see the world, in the way I can no longer pretend, in the way silence now feels like disobedience. And so I say it again, not as a choice, but as a surrender. The truth must be told, even when it separates me, even when it strips away what I once belonged to, even when it asks for everything, because I have seen what waits beyond silence, and I cannot return to not knowing. I cannot go back to sleep, because once the light has found you, darkness no longer feels like rest. It feels like hiding, and I was not brought back to hide. And now I'm speaking to you, not to a crowd, not to a distant audience, to you. Because if these words have reached you, if you have stayed this long, if something inside you has not turned away, then this is not sluchainist. This is not coincidence. You are here on purpose. I need you to understand something. What I was shown was not just a vision. It was a warning. Not loud, not violent, not filled with fear, but clear, unavoidable. There is a war, not the kind you see on screens, not the kind fought with weapons or borders, but a war for truth. A war for what you believe is real. A war for your soul. And most people will not see it. They will continue as they are, distracted, comfortable, certain in things they have never truly questioned. They will hear messages like this and turn away, because truth, when it first appears, feels like loss. It asks you to let go, to release what is familiar, to step into something you cannot fully control. And many will not choose that. But you are still here, and that matters more than you realize. Because something in you recognized something in this. Something stirred. Something paused. Something listened. And that is how it begins. Not with certainty, but with attention. So I ask you, do not ignore that. Do not silence it. Do not rush back into noise just to avoid what is rising within you. Sit with it. Search. Ask. Not from fear, but from honesty. Because truth does not fear your questions. It invites them. And I tell you this not to lead you into confusion, but to lead you into depth. Into something real. Into something that cannot be shaken when everything else begins to fall. Because it will. Not all at once, but slowly, undeniably, the things built on illusion will not hold. And when that happens, only truth will remain. So prepare your heart, not with fear, but with openness, with willingness, with courage. And if this message has reached you, if something inside you is awakening even now, then walk with it, follow it, let it lead you deeper. And if you feel alone in that journey, you are not. There are others, awakening, searching, remembering. And this is why I am here. This is why I am speaking. This is why this space exists. If you're hearing this, then you have found minutes beyond life. Not by accident, but because something in you was ready. So stay. Subscribe. Not for me, but for what is being revealed. For what is unfolding. For what you are becoming aware of. Because this is not just a story you listen to. This is a journey you step into. And it is only beginning. And now I leave you with this, not as pressure, but as truth. The time is now. Choose. Not later. Not when it is easier. Not when everything makes sense. Now. Because awakening does not wait for comfort. It responds to readiness. And something in you is already responding. Even now, it has not left me. Not the way a dream fades, not the way a memory softens over time. This stays. It lingers in the quiet spaces, of my life in the moments when the world slows down in the silence between thoughts. Sometimes I feel it in my chest again. That same presence, not as overwhelming as before, but enough to remind me I crossed something real, and it did not let me return unchanged. I see differently now, not with my eyes, but with something deeper. I cannot unsee what I have seen. I cannot unknow what I now carry. And that is the weight of it. Not fear, not confusion, but a responsibility. Because once truth finds you, it does not ask permission to stay. It becomes part of you. It reshapes you, quietly, relentlessly, until even your silence begins to speak. And sometimes late at night, when everything is still, I remember that moment, that light, that gaze, that knowing, and I feel it again. The same whisper, unchanged, eternal. He called my name in the dark, and I wonder how many others are hearing it now. Softly, patiently, waiting for a response. Maybe even you, because something brought you here. Something held your attention. Something in you did not turn away. And that means this is no longer just my story. It is touching yours. It is reaching into places you may not have words for yet. And once it reaches you, you stand at the same threshold I did. Not of death, but of decision. To remain as you are, or to step into what you are being shown. Because awakening, it is not comfortable. It asks you to leave behind what once defined you. It asks you to release certainty for truth. It asks you to surrender even when you do not yet understand what comes next. And that is the cost. The cost of seeing. The cost of remembering. The cost of following what is real when everything else feels easier. So now I ask you, not as someone above you, but as someone who has stood where you are standing now, will you turn away? Or will you lean in? Will you quiet what is stirring inside you? Or will you follow it, even if it leads you beyond everything familiar? Because once the veil lifts, it does not fall back into place. Once truth enters, it does not leave. And all that remains is what you choose to do with it. So hear this one last time. Let it settle. Let it echo. Let it find you where you truly are. This isn't just my story, it's yours. And whether you accept it or resist it, the moment is already here. The time is now. Choose, not tomorrow, not when it is easier, now. And if you do not know where to begin, then return. Not to noise, not to confusion, but to truth. Return to what was spoken in light, before it was buried beneath layers of misunderstanding. Return to the Gospels. Return to the words that still carry life. Return to Christ, even if it costs you everything. Because some things, some truths are worth losing the world for. And if you ever feel alone in that choice, remember this: you were never the only one who heard the call. You were only waiting to answer it.